Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, a podcast about innovators, both in business and real life. Hosted by myself, Ricardo Pascual, and Harry McDonough. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech. The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Innovation Conversation. Today we are joined by Daria Reutovich. Close enough?
Yeah, very good, very well.
Daria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, happy to be here.
Daria, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, my name is Daria. I'm originally from Belarus, and I moved away 10 years ago, and currently I live in Amsterdam. My professional experience was always about the venture capital side of building a startup. And yeah, I've been in the startup support services, I've been in accelerators. Now currently I'm working at kind of an investment firm, as we call it, but we have an accelerator and follow-on fund. So, and I'm very, very passionate about this industry. Also, as being a woman, as being an immigrant, I think it's there is a lot venture capital can do to kind of create innovations using also different types of backgrounds and different people as well.
So how was that transition like? Because moving to Belarus to the Netherlands, I guess it must have been quite hard.
Yeah, it's kind of was actually true. I did my bachelor in Belarus, and I got involved in kind of in a movement called Global Entrepreneurship Week. It was all about startups and entrepreneurship innovations. And through that, I got in touch with the startup ecosystem in Belarus, and I was working a little bit in there also while still being a student. And then I understood that in order to support Belarusian startup go global and actually enter a bigger market, I need to get this knowledge of a bigger market myself. So that's what the initial idea came from, that I wanted to get the European experience. I want to maybe get a degree. So I started to explore the options, how I can get that experience. And then I found the university in the Netherlands. It was like a kind of an MBA program that was focused on entrepreneurship and international business. So I got the scholarship for that program, got accepted. So that's how I decided to move. But still, and it was, I think I would consider it as a pretty kind of lucky and comfortable environment to move in, where I had scholarship, I had university. It was quite easy to move when you have like university friends and so on, but it was still quite hard, also cultural-wise, language-wise. For me, it was also difficult in the beginning. And then my idea was that I will study, I will get some network, some understanding how everything works, and then I will go back and bring it to Belarus. But it never happened. I stayed. First, I stayed because I want to get more and more experience. But then the whole geopolitical situation was getting worse and worse. And I understood, okay, I don't want to support the government in there. I don't want to support the politics there. And I would better stay in the Netherlands. Yeah, so that was the transition. But overall, I would also see, I saw immediately that coming from kind of Eastern Europe, we have a little bit of a different work mentality and the drive to work. So it was quite easy for me actually to study, because I saw that I couldn't just I don't take more hours to study, and for me it was normal. And then when I started to work, I also saw that I could do more, and I was capable of doing more. But I think it was my kind of upbringing that we have to work hard and a lot. So in the beginning, it was quite easy to have my foot in the door, because I knew that I can do a lot and I can work hard. So from that perspective, it was good, but yeah, it brought some other challenges later on.
I was just about to ask, what were the main differences between Belarus and the Netherlands in terms of the work mentality and stuff?
Yeah, I think in the Netherlands, in the very beginning, it was very difficult for me to accept that people have life. So it's funny, now when I reflect, I really, really respect the Dutch culture. I really respect, admire, but in the very beginning, when people would like look at the watch and says, yeah, 5 o'clock, I need to go home. I was like, yeah, how? Like, but it's only 5 and we still have a lot of work to do. Like, how can you go home? And I could not understand it. Or I also couldn't understand why people would like. I was also quite young. I didn't have family, but people would prioritize, I don't know, going back to their partners or their families versus like going to a work event or going to like a work trip. For me, it was like, wow, it's exciting. It's like, it's work. We can achieve so much more if we do more. Where the Dutch culture is way more oriented on the work-life balance, which I now respect. But back then it was difficult to accept. That's one part. And the second part was also difficult to adjust to the planning ahead. Because in the Dutch culture, you need to plan ahead, also with your friends, with everyone, even like super close people. But like, you plan a date 2 weeks in advance. You plan a dinner with your friends like a month in advance. Otherwise, all the calendars are already pre-booked. And work-wise, it was also, if I wanted to have a colleague or time with a colleague, I needed to plan ahead. I needed to think, okay, like in 3 days, I will have these questions. Now I need to plan this meeting now. It was difficult also to adjust because if I had a question, I wanted to have an answer right away. But very often it was not possible. And in the beginning, it was very annoying, but it also taught me quite a lot in terms of preparation and planning and structure. And so it gave a different perspective of how to use everyone's time efficiently. So that was, it was a very nice learning, but in the beginning, I remember I was really, really annoyed. But on the other hand, I could also see that because I was like right away way more flexible and I could be way more proactive and more independent. So that brought me the career growth opportunities quite fast.
When did you move into the mental health space in the VC world?
Yeah, so after the university in the Netherlands, I went to work for a Dutch accelerator. It was just in the beginning, it was an accelerator company. And there, I actually worked there for 7 years. And while also my time there, we've transitioned a company from being just an accelerator to a VC fund. And we've raised 3 funds, and it was more about like impact overall. It was health, agri-food, and emerging tech. But in that space, I started to understand the importance of making something good for this world, or at least not harm it. That's why I understood, okay, I like the idea of using capital for good. I understood the kind of the rules of the game, that to be in a VC, you need to make a rich man richer. But I also understood that I want to do it in a way that will make an impact on the startups, for example, we would invest this money into. And so I was in that company, and I've changed also my roles quite a lot. But in the end, I was responsible for the setting up the backend of the company and still providing the accelerator services to the startups. And also, like, I was playing a lot with them. How or what kind of support services startups really need to grow. And in that company, we focused a lot on the metrics and business growth and like sales and like pushing. And I also saw that very often it would bring some results, but also very often it will come with a cost. Like startups founders were getting divorced because we could observe them like for 5+ years. So we could see that they would struggle with their friendship, with their relationship, romantic life, health. They might get successful, they might bring the returns, but it would bring them some damage, I would say. And then I started to question, okay, where the boundaries? Both worlds, with the pure making money is important, health is important, and how to merge it. And then after that company, I moved to another, but basically the journey was not as straightforward, but currently I'm at an investment company that I started very early on. So there was the person his name is Eugene, he has a few successful businesses, and he wanted to reinvest this money back into the startup world and support the founders. And he also had this vision in his head that he wanted to support impact-driven founders. So, and that was the stage where I joined, where someone with finance or with like capital had an idea, and I joined in to execute on this idea that, okay, let's build a company that will invest in startups. And when we were talking a lot and brainstorming and we're doing some market research in terms of, okay, what are the areas we want to invest in and what would be the added value from our side. And we both quite immediately agree that we want to make sure that startups supported not only on the business side, but on the mental health side. Because he has been a successful founder for a few times. He also went through a lot of personal changes and a lot of personal troubles. And kind of while surrounded by people who also believe that business is not only struggle, I understood that this is what I also want to do. And it's basically what I can also change. Maybe it sounds very narcissistic, but that's what I also can change in the industry a little bit, is to bring this awareness that investors' responsibility is not only to push the startups to grow, but also to provide the space where startups are not burning out and sacrificing their lives for profits or for investor profit or rich people profit, basically.
How do you manage that? Because obviously being a startup, it has a lot of stress, it has a lot of tension.
Yeah.
But also from a VC perspective, the stress is always, will the VC be happy with my quarterly results?
Exactly.
I guess with you guys, it's slightly different. It's okay, we need to be happy with the financials, but we also need to be happy with, your emotional well-being. How does that work?
We're still figuring that out, to be honest. So it's true, and it's actually 3 levels. I think the founder health is one level, and then the second level, the investors need to bring the returns to their LPs, I would say. And then the third level, the investors also need to stay healthy in that process. And we also don't talk about that part. So for now, and currently we are in quite a lucky position that we don't have the LPs to report to. So there is one level less, but still we also have our own ambitions, and we also want to make some returns and make kind of money out of what we are doing. So the pressure of investing and getting some returns, we still have it, and it also affects our mental health. So what we are doing now is that when we invest, when we make the investment decision, we always analyze not only the business side, but the startup's personality side and the openness to discuss such kind of things, and the openness to work, or openness to acknowledge that at one point of that time they might need some support with their kind of staying healthy attitude. So we do the personality test, we talk to the startups openly about that while they join. So we invest, startups join first at the accelerator program for 3 months. We give a little bit of cash during that program, and after the program we do a proper round where we give a bit more cash. So throughout the accelerator program, we build the program on 3 pillars. I pillar, so it's basically how I feel as a person, as a founder, as a human being. Then V pillar is like how I as a founder feel myself around the peers around me, how I feel around investors or mentors or other people, and how we as a team feel together. And the third level is EAT pillar, and EAT is their business side. Metrics is a hardcore business. And we, based on the 3 pillars, we build the program curriculum, and we talk or have conversations with the founders always around the 3 pillars. So around EAT pillar is quite straightforward. We have the workshops, we have mentors, we have growth partners who set up goals, set up experiments, analyze these experiments, create hypotheses, and it's very straightforward side. And I think it takes approximately 50% of the curriculum. Then we go to the V pillar. It's a bit easier for the startups to go into there. than I, for example, pillar. So we do the peer-to-peer sessions where we take ourselves out of acquisition. We invite a professional kind of mediator slash coach slash therapist, but not really. But he doesn't have a therapist role there. It's more like a coach slash facilitator. And he facilitates group discussions around certain topic. And it's a lot. And we as a VC fund or as an investor, we promised and we keep this promise that we don't talk to this therapist about what's happening in these sessions. Yeah, basically, it's everything what's happening is confidential, and we never know exactly what's happening. The only thing that we are allowed to know and we know is the topics. So we can then, the main topic that we discussed, so we can use these topics for the building the program curriculum or kind of to make the curriculum stronger. So usually what startups are discussing, very common topic is that they're afraid to sell, and the fear always takes a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And they're so afraid to go out, talk to the customers, to get the rejection, and they are burning out because they're losing their energy and that fear, because they still do it. They have to do it because we push them to do it.
Yeah, of course.
But the fear eats them out a lot. So they work together as a group, and this fear on how to overcome this fear. And this, for example, one of the topics. The second topic could be, or another topic that pops up very often, is how to manage a team as being a single founder. How to fire, how to hire, how to make the right decision, how to not to be afraid again. So again, we work a lot with fear. And what we see when people speak out loud about their fear, when they actually are allowed to put it out there and not to hide it, that, yeah, well, I'm super afraid to go out and to do like 20 customer interviews, but I'm going still to do it. It usually for them gives some energy back and it becomes less difficult. So we see even by talking about that, it becomes easier for the startups to actually execute on that. And the third level, it's iTrack, so where we have therapists and coaches in the program who one-on-one work on some specific requests from the startups. So yeah, because some of things cannot not be discussed in a group. Sometimes it's too private. But and here, that's where the challenge comes for us now, is we don't know how much we can push people to actually start talking to a coach or therapist, versus, well, it should be a pool where they actually come to us saying, hey, I want to discuss this and this and this. And this is where the ethical role of VC comes in, and we don't know yet what is the right answer here, like whose responsibility it is to bring the problem up and to push the problem to be resolved. Is it the startup side? Is it the investor side? For now, we decided that it's a startup side. We provide the tools and the kind of frameworks to work on it. But what the downside of that it's difficult for a startup to focus at the same time on growing the business and working on their mental health. Usually, it's quite difficult to do in parallel. Usually they burn out and then focus on mental health and then go back to the business. Mm-hmm. And understandable, it's very understandable. But yeah, how to put it together at the same time, this is something we're still figuring out now.
It's quite fascinating what you're doing, because every startup I talk to, or every founder I talk to, they always talk about their journey they're on, right? The beliefs that they had in the beginning are not the same beliefs they're going to have 6 months down the line or a year down the line. And, there's a lot of doubt that happens along the way. And you being able to provide them with mental health support and guidance and counseling, that actually makes a huge difference, because they don't need to fight that battle alone. They actually have a support group, right? So I'm assuming the founders are quite happy in the process. I mean, what's been the feedback so far?
Yeah, so far it's so good. I mean, the one main metric I'm proud of is all the startups recommend other startups to us. So they actually that our pipeline, our deal flow comes from the recommendation. And okay. For me, it is, at least at this stage of our business, is the most important metric, because we're still quite young. We're still building our deal flow. So they all are happy and satisfied. Of course, there is always things to improve, and it's normal. But we also position ourselves as a kind of a lean company where we ask for feedback and we improve things we could for sure improve. Other things around, helping startup to get access to markets, to get more introductions to the relevant partners, and so on. But providing this safe space to be vulnerable and providing this safe space to try different things, that's been very kind of appreciated and valued by the startups. We also have some queer startup founders. We have startup founders with very difficult backgrounds. And what we also see, for me, it was like super strange to understand because I've never was deep in that topic, but apparently queer founders, it's also for them, it's quite difficult to get funding. And usually they go to also queer investors. And there are very, very few funds that focus on investing in queer founders. And for us, when we just looked at the business and we liked it, and that's okay. And also for us, it was quite easy to get the personal connection with the founder right away. And then we talked about that afterwards, and they've mentioned that it was difficult for them to open up, even like to kind of say that they're queer. For me, it was like, oh wow, it's like without even noticing and doing it on purpose, we understood that we can also support the founders who are not necessarily accepted in the society yet, even though it's 21st century, so it's weird. But yeah, so this was quite positive. I also, like when you mentioned about the values and the motivation, one of the exercises we always do in the very beginning for the founders, and I would recommend actually to do it to all the founders, everyone can do it at home. But basically, what we did, we wrote a list of 10 the most common motivations why startups are building a startup. It's like to make an impact, to earn money, to something good to the world, to solve a problem. But there were also some motivations like to get the world's recognition, to kind of something that is usually considered as a wrong motivation, where you want to be you want to get love, or you want to get recognition, and you from the but basically something that is not very commonly talked in the society. And then we asked all the founders to pick up one motivation that they all think that they chose to build a startup with that motivation. And all of our startups are usually using the impact, making something good in this world, and supporting people and building a solution for a very big problem. So they choose this motivation as a first round, and they have to pitch to their peers why, kind of explain how that motivation impacted their decision to make a startup. And it usually comes quite natural, quite comfortable, but as a reflection for the first round, startups are usually saying that it feels something wrong. It feels like I'm overselling it. It feels like I'm not such a good person in my heart, but I'm just pretending that I want to build something great for this world. And then for the second round, we asked the startups to choose a motivation that the least resonates with them. And usually they choose money. They just want to earn a lot of money. Yeah. And then they pitch to their peers that motivation. Like they said, they started to build a startup because they want to get rich. And they can, for 2-3 minutes, have to act on that motivation. And when we do the reflection round, they all see that it comes so much more natural. For them, the motivation to be recognized, to get love from their parents, to prove something to their parents, to their partners, or to earn a lot of money, it comes way more natural. And then for us, this exercise is so important because we want to make sure that founders accept all the parts in themselves, good and bad, and they don't feel shame that they want to get rich, they want to prove something to their parents. Even though they're not kids anymore. And while they're accepting that, for them, the energy level usually kind of equals out a little bit. They'll stop losing some motivation to pretend that they want to do something good for this world. So that's also a very interesting exercise that we've learned to do, to accept, to help founders to accept who they are, what they are, and what they are doing. And interestingly enough, that we as an investor, we never changed our opinion, or we never started to think worse about the startups if they say, well, I just want to prove to my dad, or I want to get love from my dad. And I was like, yeah, great motivation. You know about it. You will achieve your result while using that motivation, but be honest to yourself. And that usually helps a lot with building the path forward that will be a bit more easy and straightforward in terms of the mental health.
It kind of reminds me of those Miss competitions, and the common joke is they always say world peace. And my goal is world peace. I'm like, come on, I'm sure it's not world peace, right?
Exactly. And it's also all these corporates who want to to do like something like sustainability, right? It's also considered very often as a marketing tool, which is a great marketing tool, except marketing tool. Just be honest about that. Don't like lie to the public that you want to do something really, really good, which is, yeah, even if you're doing it for marketing, it's still better for the society, but just say, okay, you're doing it for the marketing, and that's it.
It's tricky to balance that. I'm just thinking the biggest, one of the funniest things in history is the fact that the Nobel Prize was actually created by a guy who invented dynamite, and ultimately Alfred Nobel was feeling so bad about himself and what he created that he decided to create something for good, which was a Nobel Prize. But he ultimately created something that was just a pure money-making machine or product. So yeah.
Exactly. But we also see the same in the venture capital now. We see a lot of money coming from the industry that are a little bit like not good for society, gaming or gambling or porn industry. There is kind of still, there are a lot of venture capital money coming from that, and they try to invest in the good startups, which is partly controversial, but partly if at least they don't bring it back to the industries. At least they've earned their money, and then they understood, okay, I did maybe something wrong for this world, and I want to do something better. And maybe it's better if it didn't happen at all, but now, because it happened, the money will go to the right place. So again, being honest about why and what you're doing, I think it's super important.
It's a fine balancing act, isn't it? The whole ethics of it and where the money's coming from and all that, where you're going to invest or not. I mean, even when it comes to, for example, money from oil, people like to think, oh yeah, money from oil is evil. But in reality, is it though? Because let's look at Norway. They all got money from oil, and they actually transforming the country for the much better because of that. So
and I think again, it is controversial. I partly want to say, I would also think like that. Part of me wants to say, well, no, it's better not to take money from oil. But if you're in the situation, and again, if everyone is honest and transparent, I think then I, for example, can make very informative decision if I want to use this money or not. But if it's hidden, if it's sold differently, so it's an ethical question. I don't think it's philosophical question, I would even say.
Indeed. How many startups do you get in each?
So we run 2 cohorts per year, and we structure it in the way that we take approximately 50 startups in the beginning of the program, and we observe each other for the first 1 month. So the startups can get to know us to see if we add value or not. And then we can observe a startup to see if they can execute, if they can learn fast enough, if they're aligned with our values, if they're open to feedback and so on. And after 1 month, we have a stage gate where it's a two-way street where we both decide if we want to continue or not. And let's say if we decide to continue, and usually it's approximately 10 startups we continue with, where 5 startups for different reasons either stop working with us. Mostly usually the reason is that they're too early. They, let's say, don't have enough resources in the team to do all the experiments we want to do. They're for example, they still need some time to build an MVP that will work to test. So we decide with them that they will wait until the next cohort, and they usually join in the next cohort of the startup. So in the end, we end up investing approximately in 10 startups per accelerator program. And the follow-on investment, we can invest up, like actually almost to everyone or in everyone as a co-investor. So whenever they raise their next round, we will co-invest up to 300 K co-investor opportunity, co-investor. And afterward, for the follow-on investments, we are now currently raising a fund. So we will have some LPs to report to. It will be fun. But now we are raising a fund to be able to support those startups we've already invested in for way longer.
And what's the rate of failure rate? I'm going to say, what's the progression rate from, I guess, seed to Series A's that you have so far?
We're quite early, so in this specific company, we just operate 1.5 years.
Okay,
so it's very early to say, but so far we invested in, I think, 15 plus 8, basically 23 companies. And out of them, I think 4 raised the first round within a year. So it's not bad, not good. It's just a very, I think, average rate on the market right now. But in the past, let's say in the company I used to work before, it was a very similar model. I think the follow-on rate was around approximately, the first follow-on rate was approximately 66%, which is quite good. And I think approximately 40% will continue raising the fund at the next rounds.
Pretty good stats, actually.
It's not bad, but I think it also what helps in that is very specific domain-specific startups, industry-specific startups. And those industries that are like agri-food or energy or health is something that is nowadays especially quite popular, I would say. So there are a lot of specialized funds investing in that. So it's not too difficult to get access to that, to finance, if you have some traction and if you have more or less good team. So it's possible these days, I would say.
They're probably slower to, I guess, to prove profitable or to prove that. So it's a bit of a long-term bet, isn't it?
It's for sure. Sure. It's especially in the like agri-food and the energy domain. Yeah, it's if it's especially quite a hard, it's still software, at least what we've invested in. But if it's a difficult technology that needs a lot of time to get to the market, so yeah, that would be a bit longer to get profitable, and it will be like to find a business model working in the energy space. It's quite tough. But currently, for example, in the mental health space, we invest in mostly B2C consumer apps, and this is a bit. I could say maybe not profitable, but to get some more some proper sustainable traction becomes possible. It's expensive, especially if they start using the traffic and buy ads on like Meta or Google. It becomes quite expensive, but with the proper experiments and proper kind of this Hazy cycle, like hypothesis, assumptions, and experiments, and so on, it's a bit easier to find the unit economic that will work. So it's possible still to get profitable a bit faster, but sometimes it's quite expensive exercise to do the first experiments because traffic nowadays is quite expensive for the B2C consumer apps.
So the key verticals you guys invest in are mental health and what else?
Yeah, mental health, education, future of work, sustainable finance. That's mostly about like teaching kids to use finance, or basically how money can be used for good as well. And currently we're exploring ethical use of AI as a
ethical use of AI. Okay,
because this is also a very controversial topic and very hot topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
We believe, so basically what we believe in, and maybe I should have started with that, but there are a lot of problems in this world. There are wars, climate crisis. There is this like fear of losing jobs because of technology is exponentially developing. There are a lot of problems, and we believe that those also problems arise in 3 levels. The first level, because I'm as a person, is not connected to myself as a human being. I don't feel good. I'm not talking about myself, but like in general, as a human being, we don't feel good, depressed. There is a high level of loneliness and depression right now. So we believe that because we as a human beings are not connected to ourselves, we have these problems of loneliness and depression. Then on the second level, we're not connected to the communities around us, to our families, friends, neighbors, countries. So we are not, as a population, are not connected to each other, and hence wars, conflicts, and so on. And the third level, we're not connected to the nature around us. And we don't care too much about the climate, and or we don't care enough about that, and we are not connected to the nature around us. And that's why we believe that there is also like a climate crisis. And if our mission is to invest in the products that will help to reduce this disconnect on one of those levels. So that's why mental health apps, it's like, for example, future of work is like, now people are afraid that they might lose the job. The job in general, the way we work is changing so much. There is like a creator economy is becoming way bigger than the manufacturing economy. And because of that, people also sometimes don't feel accomplished. They don't have enough interest in their life in terms of their job and career and so on. So that's kind of a level we also want to invest. And then ethical, why I'm saying it, because the ethical use of AI also impacts an I and V level a lot. And we don't know how the AI will continue developing, what the AGI will look like. And we don't want to stop this development, but we want to make sure that people are prepared for that. So they will know how to use these instruments when they will be commonly used in the society. And we want to invest in the product that will help people to be prepared for that and to be able to judge for themselves how they want to use the AI. So the AI will not use them. So we want to explore that area currently, and what kind of products can be also venture capital products in that.
Very interesting. Daria, if people want to reach out to you, how can they do so?
Yeah, LinkedIn would be the easiest way to reach out. Yeah, my name is Daria Reutovich in there, and my email is also open on LinkedIn, so it's possible to kind of email me through LinkedIn or text me on LinkedIn.
Dangerous. That's very dangerous. You're gonna get some emails after.
Well, but I'm the person who, it's sometimes gets on too much, but yeah, I think I've learned how to filter and how to answer, and found my routine to keep up with the incoming requests.
Daria, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was fun to reflect also on my journey. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. All right. So the podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. This podcast is also sponsored by startupnetworks.co.uk. Startup Networks, it's an online forum where you can find all the resources you need to run your startup, from grants to investors to tips and tricks on how to be successful in your startup. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech.